Okay, so let's talk about presenting three versions of this file and how we would do it. First thing is, this is my version 1. So let's save that as version 1. I'm going to save it to the desktop. This has, and you'll notice that I went back, if you've been following along with the tutorials, I actually went back and found that picture of Keith Urban. I didn't want to be stuck with that previously colorized version that I did for a different assignment. I want to have a little more flexibility, and I like him in full color here, since I've got this in full color, this in full color, this in full color. And notice everything's on its own layer. As I click through, I have my move tool selected, and auto select layer is on, and I added a moon back here. There's a blank space back here that could really be defined and take our eye back, but right now I don't want to mess with it. Important things to have these on their own layers. And if you do change size, duplicate the layer. You can name it too. Like here's Keith Urban, the original. I might want to call this KU Orig, just so I can keep track, right? Now, okay, I've saved that as version 1. Okay, now let's do another save as, and we're going to call this version 2. Okay. Actually, what is that, version 12? Sorry, I want to call that version 2, not version 12. Version 2. Now, here's the thing. What other things can we do with this? Can we make it into a duotone? Let's try one as a duotone. I can always open up my original and remanipulate that for version 3. But in this one, I'm going to go to image mode, grayscale. Okay, we're going to flatten it. And then we're going to go to, here's where I like to adjust my levels too. Auto. I'm going to go to image mode duotone. Okay, and here it's on tritone. I'm going to go duotone, and I am going to, let me play around with some of these colors. Okay, so I went with a tritone here, and I'm going to desaturate this, because what I'm looking for on this particular one, and here I'm going to change my image mode now to RGB, okay, because I want to be able to bring up my hue saturation and desaturate this. Now what I wanted on this one was kind of an old sci-fi movie look. Remember, the written component is going to be really important here. So I'm making notes as I'm doing this and thinking about what I want to describe here and how I like the results. This one, for example, I might... version 2 is going to be my old movie still. It's greenish, but this is totally desaturated, black and white movie. And then this would be coming up a little bit, coming up a little bit. Big difference between that and that, right? I always like this kind of a greenish, funky look. Okay, so that's version 1. Now let me do a file open recent, and we'll do version 1. So now I can flip between the two. There's version 1. There's version 2. Let's do one more. So we're going to do we're going to do a save as, and this is going to be version 3. Now, hopefully this is where all of the elements are where they should be, right? This would be an opportunity, for example, to make this one smaller. Okay, let's say we wanted to make that smaller, and see what would happen if we opened up that black sky back there. This would be another, potential compositional change. Remember, there's the rule of thirds. If you divide this thing up into thirds, let me just do that roughly. Okay, at the intersections is going to be a really good place for a focal point. Now, to me, that's okay, except I kind of want to define this upper quadrant a little bit, so maybe I would go with that. Okay. What else can we do here? We could maybe decide that that was cluttering things up and we didn't need it. Okay, so this is going to be my version 3. I might want to make Keith in this one a little bit smaller so that that flower looks a little bit bigger, and that's closer to what it was before, right? Now remember, I can make it really small, and of course you still see the residue of previously manipulating this, but let me see. And what else could I do with that plant? See, that's the question. So remember, I have that plant duplicated. I believe it's here. I hope that I had. I see. I went ahead and I cropped that, and I shouldn't have, right? But that doesn't mean to say I can't go in there and smooth these edges out. Remember, for the final, I'm going to be using the healing brush and all those different things that we've been studying, so that we can get a real nice, clean cutout. So here, what I want to do is maybe change up the composition a little bit, and spend some time on it. I could spend hours fussing with these things and playing with the colors, the saturation. There's kind of a blue plant. Maybe I'll go with that. Maybe that blue's a little too bright. Again, we're not studying color in this assignment. We're studying more of the composition, talking about things like unity and trying to make the narrative really work. Here I've desaturated him a little bit. I've colorized that in blue. And this one I still kind of like that. But again, let me duplicate that layer so I have a backup. And let me desaturate that and see if that doesn't make it a little bit stranger. I can even colorize this moon, I believe, if I wanted to. I could also add something here in the back, right? I'm still not sure about this thing, whether it should be, the focus should be him looking at this strange plant and then this odd form over here and then the moon, right? So in terms of composition and what I want this thing to do and what I want it to look like, I'm going to have to fuss with it, play with it. Maybe something like that. Maybe the moon can go. The moon also can be cropped like that. That leaves a big open area in here, and I'm not sure exactly what I want to have happen. This flower was kind of left over. I wouldn't mind it actually. You see it leaves the white there because it's left over from a different project, but I wouldn't mind having this background, for example, actually be cut away. I can turn it to black, and that will allow the flower to overlap a little bit more in this, and stick out a little bit more. I'm going to crop that little piece there. Okay, so again, not sure if I'm wild about that. Hold on. Okay, so I've changed the color on this, adjusted the levels. I picked the background and I subdivided it because it was just too much black. So you can see, the process is looking at the background, not just getting stuck on the shapes, looking at the directional push and pull of these elements. Like, this comes in, takes your eye down, comes back up through this diagonal. See the focal point. Focal point is looking up with his gaze to this big thing over here. You go across these different values, drawn over to this vertical line, and then over to the moon, and then back again. Are there other things that could happen? Sure. Again, this was only a few minutes of work here, so maybe we need some more developing of the negative space, whatever it is. Okay, so that would be my third version, and I'm going to save that. Actually, I'm going to save that as version 3. Now the last thing we want to do is present these. All right, so let's see. So we want to present these all three. We have version 2 open. We have version 3 open. We can get rid of this for now. We don't need this. This is another image I was looking at. We don't need this right now. We've saved all that. We don't need that. So I'm going to have my 2 versions up. I can always do File, Open Recent, and open up version 1. So here's version 1, version 2, and version 3. Now here's what I would do. I'm going to duplicate each one of these images so I don't write over them in case I want to edit them out. I'm going to flatten the duplicates and I'm going to post them as one JPEG, and let me show you how to do that. Okay, so here's what we do. Let's start with 1. Image duplicate. Okay, version 1 copy. That's fine. We'll just go with that. So now that we have version 1 copy, let's close version 1 so that we have it safe. All right, it's version 1 copy. Let's go to version 2. Let's go in image, duplicate. We'll call this version 2 copy. Fine. And then let's close version 2. Okay, and we'll save version 2 PSD. Yeah. Version 3, image, duplicate. Fine. And then let's close version 3. So we have version 1 copy, version 2 copy, version 3 copy. Flatten. Okay. We've got our originals safe, just in case we need them. This one's already flattened because it was we used it as a duotone, as I recall. And this one we can flatten. Okay, beautiful. So next, let's add some canvas. Now this image size is 600, so let's multiply that times 3. Let's make that 1800. Let's go to canvas size and make the height, starting from the top, make the height 1800. Boom. It's going to add a whole bunch. And you know, we don't need all of this canvas, so let me drag around, and I'm going to drag all the way down to the bottom, right? So we don't have all that. I'm going to do an image crop. Okay, beautiful. So let's go to version 2. Actually, boy, I should have. Okay, well, I'll copy this. Go over here, paste it, hit my move tool, line it up. Give yourself some margins so that we can see them separately, not too big and not too little. And then finally, version 3. I'm just going to do a select all. Copy, go over to version 1, scroll down, let's stop that, hold on, not now, and then let's paste that puppy in. Okay, now what I want to do is, yeah, I selected too much, hold on, I selected too much of that. I thought I'd speed things up, but I didn't. Let me get rid of all that canvas. Not my move tool's not selecting for some reason. Interesting. Okay, so I'm bringing that up. Let me check my margins. Okay, I'm just going to eyeball it. I want the margins to be fairly equal. That looks pretty close. The edges are lined up. They're all the same size. I can now, I'm going to see what this whole thing looks like, nicely stacked. All right, this is where I am going to crop the bottom. Now leave some space at the bottom for a label. Image, crop, boom. All right. Now I double click my magnifying glass, and I am going to scroll through here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And how do we want to label these? You might say, see if I can get my text tool going here. So I've got 11 pixel Arial selected. This is what I'm going to say from top. Hit return, and I'm going to have, let me think of some names here. Okay, so I've got my, from top, original tritone scale study, Jeff Brenner 2011. You can put your name and title up there. And this is what you're going to present as for someone to review and to look at and say, okay, I like what's happening with this for these reasons. I like what's happening with this, but consider keeping this color scheme and these elements, but moving this element down. You can combine these. You can take you can look at what you've learned in one and apply it to the other. But what you're going to do ultimately is pull your best one here and present it full scale for the final